Despite just being in the NBA Finals 2 years ago, the Miami Heat have quickly become one of the most underrated teams in the league regarding winning a championship this year. Between young talents like Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo developing, to offseason acquisitions such as Kyle Lowry proving to be a great fit, it seems as though this Miami Heat team has everything they need to win a championship this year. But can they do it? Today we have to talk Miami Heat, in particular taking a look at the good and bad that we've seen from this team this year, the secret to making their championship dreams a reality, and a huge trade that could have a monumental impact on this team and their championship ambitions. But before we get into that, we are trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before my birthday in February, so if you enjoy the content, it would be absolutely clutch if you subscribed if you're new and join the Woods crew. But with all that being said, let's get right into the Miami Heat. Going into the new season, many people didn't exactly know what to expect from this Heat team. Sure, they had just been in the finals back in 2020, but in their most recent playoff run, they got absolutely crushed by the Milwaukee Bucks, who proceeded to win the championship. This team had been dealing with things like injuries at the time, but many believed that last year was the Heat's big chance to win it all because the East was so wide open due to many injuries. Despite this bad loss, the Heat were able to regather and retool in the offseason, adding veteran players such as Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker, who many thought were the perfect fit for this team. And well, to say they have been is an absolute understatement. If you've been watching the Miami Heat this year, you would know that Kyle Lowry is doing so much more than his 13 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds indicate. Since joining the Heat, it seems as though Lowry has had a Chris Paul type effect on the team. The man is able to facilitate the offense, step up and score the ball if needed, but more importantly, be a playmaker that gets his teammates great looks on the offensive end, which is one of his biggest contributors to his almost 9 assists per game average. Plain and simple, Lowry has been the complete package for Miami, but he's not the only player that is evolving and exceeding expectations for this team. One of the main concerns coming into the season was whether or not the Miami Heat's young core of Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, and even Bam Adebayo would improve enough to make this team a legitimate contender. And well, at this very moment, I have to say that for the most part, the young guys have looked great as well. Duncan Robinson had a terrible shooting slump for a good chunk of the season, but recently he has been playing great and has even shown signs of improvement in other aspects of his game as well. No longer is Duncan Robinson just a shooter that is a liability when it comes to everything else, because as of lately, he has been rotating on offense much better, which helps the spacing in a big way, and becoming a better passer, which isn't necessarily shown in the assist stats, but if you've been watching the games consistently, you would know that he's gotten quite a bit better. The real improvement has been Tyler Herro though, because after going from quote-unquote overrated, he is now one of the most underrated offensive players in the entire league, and the stats don't lie. So far this season, Herro has been putting up insane numbers in his 38 games played, averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. Keep in mind that in 28 out of the 38 games played, Herro is coming off the bench and leading the second unit, so to say that he's been balling out is an absolute understatement. Because of the play by Herro and the insane amount of depth that this team has, they have been one of the most balanced teams in the league, which has allowed them to win games night in and night out, even if their stars are out or underperform. Guys like Gabe Vincent, PJ Tucker, Max Struss, Caleb Martin, and more have all been great for this team regarding stepping up when needed. But despite all the good things that have been going for this team, we have to talk about the bad before discussing the secret for this team winning it all this year. Before I criticize this team, let me just give them their flowers, because at the time of this recording, the Miami Heat have the #1 seed in the East with an amazing record of 30-17. But even the best teams in the conference have areas to improve. For the Miami Heat, this year their biggest issue aside from having players on the sideline has been their lack of consistency down the stretch in games. I have seen far too many instances in which the Miami Heat look like they have the game wrapped up in the third quarter, leading by 20 or sometimes even 30 points. But then they let the opposing team get back into the game during the fourth. Now a lot of the time this isn't a huge deal because the team still ends up winning, but it's by a small margin. But the fact is, in the playoffs it will be a much bigger deal because each game has so much more value. When the Heat blow their leads, there isn't usually anything consistently to point at. Like for my Timberwolves, when they blow their leads, it's because they can't defend if their lives depended on it. But the Heat are usually elite on both sides of the ball, so it's hard to track exactly what's causing this consistently. Even though this has been an issue, many players in the team have come out and said that they're learning from losing these leads and will be ready come playoff time. So at the moment, I'm going to take their word for it and hope that they are right. Overall, this is a very small issue, and considering that this is the only thing on the court that the team has been consistently struggling with, I would say that they are in a great spot and will likely make a deep run in the playoffs. But what exactly needs to happen in order for this team to get back into the finals? Well, this is where things get interesting, because despite being one of the best teams record-wise, off the court this team has had some major concerning things happening. Between health and safety protocols and injury, the major pieces of the Miami Heat team have been on and off the court constantly, which likely could affect how this team plays if they don't get a proper amount of time to mesh. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo have both played under 30 games this season, which to say the least is a bit concerning for this team. Although it may not seem like it, Adebayo and Butler have both battled a lot of injuries since joining the Heat. People are quick to forget that in their 2020 finals run, Bam was dealing with multiple injuries throughout the entire playoffs, which decreased the team's chances of winning tremendously. There's not much the Heat can do about this thing, but in my eyes, for this team to have a chance at winning it all, both Bam and Jimmy have to be healthy and on the floor as much as possible during this team's playoff run. Now, I know what you're thinking. Obviously, this team needs their stars on the floor if they want to win it. What are the other secrets to this team winning it all? Well, I have to say that this Miami Heat team is in great shape overall. This team has a remarkable amount of two-way talent that's able to mesh together and dominate on both sides of the ball. If I had to give one more secret for this team to win it all, I would say they have to continue to get production from their bench players. Eric Spoelstra himself said that the best part about this team is how balanced they are, and any of their bench players can go off on the offensive end of the ball at any given night. This is one of the biggest reasons why the Heat have been able to get wins despite their stars being out, and when going against some of the best teams in the NBA come playoff time, I believe it will be crucial for this bench to outplay their opponents. But even though this team has one of the most balanced and deepest rosters in the entire league, some believe that it isn't enough. I mean, the team is dominating now, but what will happen come playoff time when there are 7-game series against a team like the Nets or the Bucks? Personally, I think that this team is equipped with exactly what they need to win it all this year, but for fun, I wanted to take a look at some potential big trades created by other analysts that believe the Heat need to make a trade in order to win it all this year. The first trade being for none other than Christian Wood of the Rockets. It's no secret that Christian Wood will likely get dealt at the NBA trade deadline, and between the rumors about the Miami Heat eyeing Christian Wood and the fact that many believe he would be a good fit, I had to include him in this video. The most popular Christian Wood package that I have seen is by Clutch Points, whose article I'll link below. But in this trade, the Miami Heat would send off Duncan Robinson, Victor Oladipo, KZ Okpala, and Omar Yurtseven. I know I probably botched that, so give me some slack. But anyways, in exchange receive Christian Wood, Eric Gordon, Daniel Tice, and Jayshawn Tate. I won't lie to you guys, this trade seems like an absolute haul for the Heat. Despite losing Duncan Robinson, this team would get the next best thing in Eric Gordon, along with a potential all-star talent in Christian Wood, a great backup big in Daniel Tice, and a solid two-way wing player in Jayshawn Tate. Unfortunately, when things sound too good to be true, they probably are. In my eyes, there is no way that the Rockets make this move because they would likely only be doing it for Duncan, and they could get much more value for Wood and Gordon if they traded them separately. This trade would make the Heat a lot better, but honestly, there is just no way that this happens, especially if the Heat don't send picks in this deal. But on the topic of Duncan Robinson, the Heat reportedly would be open to trading him at the deadline for a win-now piece that makes sense. Duncan is a major contributor on the offensive end for this team, but it's getting harder and harder for him to get open takes from beyond the arc as he becomes more well-known. So I could see the Heat getting rid of him if it makes sense. With that being said, the next trade comes from the NBA Analysis Network, and in this deal, the Heat send off Duncan Robinson and KZ Okpala in exchange for Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, and a first-round pick. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this deal also seems very appealing for the Heat to make, but I just can't see the Mavericks giving up Dorian Finney-Smith for Duncan Robinson. Sure, the Mavs could use some offensive help, but the main struggle of this team previously was defense, which is something that Robinson is a complete liability in. Finney-Smith has been amazing for the Mavericks not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well, which is why I believe there is no way that the Mavs trade him away. This would most definitely be a dream trade target for the Miami Heat, but I just don't see a world in which the team is able to get a deal done, especially for a trade package that the NBA Analysis Network mentioned. Honestly, unlike most teams, I believe the best thing for the Miami Heat to do is stay put and not make any moves. They have a very deep talented roster that can be elite on both sides of the ball, a good mix of young and veteran talents and star power to go with it. If this team is able to mesh, build chemistry, and stay healthy come playoff time, all I have to say is that other teams better watch out. Let me know what Heat video you would like to see next, and aside from that, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Woods out.